Well, welcome to another Angling Direct Quick Bite, and you join me in Norwich Angling Direct. I'm going to give you a bit of a talk through and a bit of a guide of choosing the right lure rod when you're targeting perch. Perch fishing has become very popular, but if you've not done much of it, it can seem a bit of a minefield. There's so many different rods to choose from. I'm going to help you choose the right rod to get the most out of your perch fishing. So the first rod I've picked up is a Western W2, and it's the Pro Lure in 3 to 17 gram. Now if you're starting out and you just want a rod that will kind of cover all the different disciplines of perch fishing, this would be a good rod to start with. You can cast small little rubber shads with it, you can use it for bouncing little neds along, you can drop shot with it, you can even bounce little Texas rigs along. So this rod will cover all the disciplines until you discover which discipline you like the most, and then you might want to change to a rod that suits that style of fishing a bit better. But if you're new to it and you're just starting out, something like this W2 Pro Lure will probably be the right rod to get you going. Now, probably the first method you think about when it comes to lure fishing for perch would be drop shotting. It's become very popular, and having a dedicated drop shot rod can make a difference. I've got the Western W3 here. It's rated to 28 grams. That's the rod I use personally most of the time. But I do fish quite challenging venues. I big reservoirs, the tidal rivers here in Norfolk, and I'm often using a 15 gram weight, sometimes even 20 gram. But if you are fishing canals, smaller rivers and lakes, you might want a slightly lighter drop shot rod. And what makes these rods different from other lure rods is how sensitive the tip is. There's a really fine tip on there because you get quite subtle bites with drop shot fishing. And you want the rod to be a nice fast action, so you can impart plenty of action down to the lure, do tiny little movements, and then get those solid whacks when they grab hold of the lure. Next up, another great way to target perch is on the Ned rig. And I've got a W3 Finesse Ned rod. It's rated to 15 grams, this one. It's the lighter out of the two. There is a slightly heavier one available, but my Ned fishing is normally in boat yards, fishing very close in. And a Ned rod doesn't have quite such a fine tip section as a drop shot. It's a little bit crisper, it's a little bit faster because they're more short, sharp movements with a Ned rig. So this would be the best one to get the most out of your Ned fishing. Now this next rod is probably for my favourite way of catching perch on lures, and that's using the Texas rig. So it's a Finesse T&C, and no, that doesn't mean terms and conditions, that's Texas and Carolina rig. So when you're fishing that particular method, you're often using an offset hook with a weedless hook set up. So you need a little bit more backbone in the rod, because when you strike, you have to pull the hook through the lure to set the hook. So you'll find these are a bit more of a stout rod. They've got a little bit more power, but they've still got that finesse to keep in touch with the lure, feel exactly what you're doing. They've got a little bit more grunt to set those bigger weedless hooks. The next rod I want to talk about is a W3, it's another Western rod, and it's the StreetStick. Now this is rated 2 to 10 grams, and you can have some great sport with this rod, whether you're fishing canals, or like I've got close to me, I've got a few boat yards and marinas. Catching perch of all sizes on this, even little wasps, is great sport. Now you can use it for all different types of perch fishing. You can cast little tiny shads with it, you can put neds on it, you can even drop shot with it. But what it does do is make catching smaller perch as much fun as possible. But don't think it won't handle a big perch. On these style of rods, I've had perch over 3 pound, and believe me, when you're playing a big perch on a light rod like this, it really is great sport. Now there's one last rod I want to mention. Let's not think that perch fishing is all about lure fishing. I do quite a bit of bait fishing for perch as well. And the rod that I use for most of my bait fishing is an Advanta twin tip specimen rod. Now this comes in an 11 foot, 1 1/4 pound test curve, and having those two different top sections means that I can use that rod on the rivers, quiver tipping lobworms, next to overhanging trees and on big sweeping bends. Then you've got a straight Avon style rod with a 1 1/4 pound test curve. Whether you're fishing a still water, you might have it on a bite alarm, ledgering prawns, ledgering lobworms. That's the perfect rod for your bait fishing. And all these rods that I've mentioned, they're available in all our Angling Direct stores. You can hop on the AD app, or you can go on the website. But even better than that, I've made it really simple for you. I've put links to all the rods I've mentioned in the description below.